Hello, welcome back to the L1 show. Do you guys hear that? It's the sound of Santa Claus on the roof because it's Christmas.
What about our viewers who don't believe in
Don't celebrate
Christianity or
Christmas.
Santa Claus?
That's the sound of a menorah on the roof.
That's the sound of government agents.
Whatever, Kwanzaa on the roof.
Do the elves have the cure?
The cure for what?
Me.
Is that your Christmas wish?
Yeah.
You've been a naughty boy this year. You're not
What-
going to get it.
What if you wake up and there's like a glowing vial in the fireplace?
YOLO. That's fine.
The cat's just batting it around.
It's fine. I'm getting better.
Well, I think I know what a lot of Chinese CEOs and high-ranking members of the Communist Party are wishing for this Christmas. Unfortunately, their Christmas wish is going in the opposite direction.
The U.S. has added 36 Chinese companies to the trade blacklist. Things are really heating up with the trade blacklist. It's actually the Financial Times, they really messed up here because there's this whole thing going on between China, Japan, the U.S., the trade sanctions, and even Indonesia. It's like this weird trade turducken sandwich thing.
The U.S. wants everybody to pick a side. The big one here was the Yangtze Memory Corporation, and that will have a lot of effect on everybody.
NAND production.
They will not be like explicitly limited, but they had been doing business with the people that the U.S. was like, no,
Yeah.
you must stop doing that.
So this might also impact flash memory production from major players as well, because they provide the raw. Some of these companies provide some of the raw components that go into that.
Now, this headline, it's good. I'm glad about this. But once again, why the qualifier? If we can do this for one specific example, why can't we do it for all of the examples? It doesn't make any sense why you would be specific here.
FCC orders telecoms to block. It's a little early in the show to do that because of the algorithm. Scammers targeting student loan forgiveness seekers. Why isn't this headline FCC orders telecoms to block scammers?
Yeah,
I mean-
we should just go for everybody, right?
If they know that they're scammers, why would we worry about this? Yeah, it's baffling.
Is anybody calling you unsolicited not a scammer? Really? I mean, come on.
They literally like, oh, they farm the headlines just looking for whatever thing to get people to
Yeah, it's the
follow
same
through.
people.
Yeah, and it's like, so why not just ban them?
Because you don't get the head. Because student loan forgiveness is a big, like,
You're
happy
Googling
talking
that, and then you
point,
see
and
that,
there's a
yeah.
headline. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's all about the clicks. By the way, you should give us more clicks. We deserve your
Store.level1text.com.
click, 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 click. Oh, this is also your last week for any kind of holiday shopping. You were warned.
Yeah.
Rough time to do it.
Yeah.
Bad time to do it. Well, we got a big block about all of this business in the business section. I didn't mean to use business twice there. But yeah, the government agencies who were just startlingly quiet for 2 weeks there have suddenly found their courage. Now, this might have been them like getting all their ducks in a row, but that's not how they've played it in the past with stuff like this.
The SEC has charged Samuel Bankman-Fried with defrauding investors in crypto asset trading platform FTX. So this is the government part of the news. We're going to cover, as Ryan said, more of this in the next episode.
And that was literally 1 hour before.
The CFTC piles on with new charges against Bankman-Fried, FTX, and Alameda. So he was arrested in Bermuda before the charges were unsealed. They wanted to get him in custody before unsealing the charges, which I thought was a little strange, seeing as how it seemed like he was kind of cooperative up to this point.
Maybe they thought he was going to leave.
Here's the question, right? If he would have not said no to the subpoena, or they didn't subpoena him, right?
Right.
They refused to subpoena him, and maybe that's why they did that, but still, it makes no sense. If he had shown up, do you think they would have done this?
If he'd shown up, I think they would have arrested him before he had a chance to
Slap
testify.
some cuffs on him?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people in government who don't want him talking.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And I think that most of these articles miss that is because of the political donations and because of everything else. He's a little bit of a loose cannon. Like, what's he going to say when he gets up there? Because he's not part of the inner circle. We don't know.
And he also just seems to talk at any given opportunity.
And not intelligently.
Yeah.
He's got to be sitting in that cell, like anything that looks remotely like cordage has to be like a viper to him, right? It's like, no, get that necktie out of here. No, I do not want to do that. I want to live. And and again, we'll talk about this more in the business section, but Binance was the big benefactor from. That's not the right word. What does it mean by someone who benefits?
Benefactor?
Benefactor is someone who takes care of you, right? Is it? Anyway, CZ done did good ever since FTX because all that business went over to them. But that has recently reversed a little bit because it turns out, CZ might be, or Binance might be also obscuring.
Reuters reports that the U.S. Justice Department is split over charging Binance as the crypto world falters. Now, I've got another story in the business section that's going to talk about they paused withdrawals and it's 1.2 billion and blah blah blah. But they're looking at how Binance took advantage of this situation and saying, well, that may also be criminal.
Also, it turns out Binance has been under investigation since like 2016, and they've chosen to do nothing until now, which is interesting. And it turns out some of the people who were investigating were like, yeah, we got everything we need. Let's go. And other people were like, no, let's wait. We can't destroy the entire crypto world all at once. That might bleed over into real money. And of course, never let a crisis go to waste. How long did this take? A couple of weeks? Probably, tens of thousands of pages of documentation. They just whipped it right up.
The SEC issues new guidance requiring companies to disclose cryptocurrency risks. What are you doing with this as a risk? Okay. This is crazy to me, though. I mean, okay, yeah, we should have that. But have we just forgotten about the whole GameStop thing and the naked shorting? Like, why are we not getting decrees that are... We should write up the risks of that. It's like, do we have short selling going on that's naked? What's happening?
How about we just don't have leverage trading? It solves everything.
That would seem to be... It's like... Here is 1 million pages of stuff that you have to read and understand, or we will charge you with crimes under the law, or let's not have leverage trading, and then none of this applies. That does seem, one of those things does seem, it's weird.
The thing about it, though, like, you'd have all those owners of all those assets coming due all at once, and it would destroy the economy. So, unfortunately.
Is it not already kind of destroyed a little bit right now? Maybe not to that degree.
It's just like an addled Ron Paul said. It's like once they let him inside the Fed, he's like, "Oh, we can't roll this thing back overnight."
The Doom Ron Paul memes.
And of course, the lawmakers are jumping into action, which is hilarious because weren't they the beneficiary? Weren't they the beneficiaries of some money laundering recently? Isn't that going to come out pretty soon?
U.S. Senators Warren and Marshall introduced Digital Assets Anti-Money Laundering Bill. If you dig into that, it's basically the cryptocurrency organizations have to report everything, but the really big change is that if you have a private wallet on your hard drive, that gets flagged. That gets extra reporting.
Yeah, they don't... Actually... I don't remember which story it was, but they were talking about how they want to get to the point where you have to go through a regulated and confirmed exchange. So your cold wallets, if you bought Bitcoin in the beginning and just, put it in a safe deposit box and you're like, yeah, I'm rich. They might never let you sell that unless you go through Coinbase and give them their ever how much percentage.
That seems like against the idea of cryptocurrency.
Isn't everything at this point? Wouldn't you say that NFTs are against the Satoshi view? And New York, of course, doing their own thing.
New York financial regulator issues cryptocurrency guidance for banks. This is also worth a read if you're into this kind of thing, but it's
basically trying to prevent another FTX.
Yeah, it's some of it is no nonsense, and it seems more well-intentioned than most things. I didn't really see too much of like they were jockeying with ulterior motives. Like the Senator Warren thing, all of that stuff is just laced with tons of stuff they're trying to ram through that they've been trying to ram through for years. And this seemed more like, this seems reasonable.
They're trying to get control.
Yeah.
And, it is well timed. I mean, they're very good at this where they didn't necessarily cause the problem this time. Usually government causes the problem, then steps in and it's like, oh, we'll solve it. Just give us power. They didn't have to cause this one. They just waited for a useful idiot. And, of course, you got to also jump on the other bandwagons that people are worried about, in this case, TikTok.
Rubio and Gallagher introduced bipartisan legislation to ban TikTok. Gallagher was able to do that posthumously. It's not that Gallagher.
He's talking about the comedian. I think he'd be pro TikTok.
Yeah, he smashes watermelon and he's very against TikTok.
So yeah, this is just, this goes a little further than the like banning it for just the government employees though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This is
So
like
we have
a
another story about that,
straight up ban.
which I don't know. I mean, I guess we could do it, but like, I feel like people would be really angry if they got taken away because people are kind of addicted to it.
Like younger people especially.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court is looking in a very interesting copyright case. And apparently this is normal. I don't see why they would do this because isn't the Supreme Court supposed to be like apart from the government? And that's the whole point. I wish they wouldn't do this.
The Supreme Court asks the Biden administration's view in the Google copyright case. Now, we covered this when it originally happened. This is the song lyrics case from Genius. So Genius put all the effort into digitizing and organizing song lyrics, but Google licensed the rights to use song lyrics in their search products from the major license holders. But there wasn't really a convenient format that the license holders could provide that to Google in. The license thing is an intellectual construct. And Genius actually did the work getting it all together.
And formatting it, and then Google just like,
yeah,
come on now.
Google just took it all and benefited from their work. And so this case may end up being about, does Genius, the lyrics company, get to benefit from the work that they did, even though copyright is kind of tangentially involved here.
It's weird though, because they took something that's copyrighted and they made their own product out of that by listening to it and interpreting it. And then Google stole that. So it's like,
it's not like, it would be really engagement challenge, legal people weigh in. But one of the ways that the phone company prevented this kind of thing from happening with phone books is to insert fictitious names in the phone book. And that was enough to confer copyright protection, because if you copied the phone book or like a map, you would insert fictitious roads and fictitious things on a map. So if somebody copied your map, they would copy the made up things, and then that would be a copyright violation under the law. And that was, that was pretty well. This kind of thing happened before, and in the past, that has been used successfully by map companies to prevent people from copying their maps. Because how do you know what was made up on the map?
and I guess this is good news just
Is
in terms of mutually assured destruction, right? You never want one side to get too far ahead that they're not afraid of the countermeasure. At least that's the modern theory. It's
Yeah.
held up so far, but it only has to fail one time.
U.S. Air Force has launched its first operational hypersonic missile
We don't know much about it.
that we know about.
They assume it's Mach 20. It's one of these missiles that can juke and jive and, evade all the ballistic anti-missile systems. So,
Yay.
one step closer, I guess.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see the doomsday clock.
That's got to at least add a second, right?
Though it's always getting closer every year. At this point, like, I don't know if we can get much closer.
They might have, underestimated in the past how much further it had to go.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
didn't leave enough room. Well, here's an interesting thing, because you have some websites who claim to perform a service, and that is a legitimate service. But when you look at their GUI, seems like they're not catering to those people. And the government has definitely taken that approach to it.
Prosecutors charged 6 people for allegedly waging massive distributed denial of service attacks. This is basically distributed denial of service for hire. They see there's a list of domains here. They're really funny. It's like, oh, you can load test your website, but really people could just sign up and pay $5 to take a website offline.
There's a lot of domains for this.
Quantumstressor.net, ipstress.vip. Yeah. So now the thing that really sunk them here, though, was their advertising campaigns, which were very much about attacking people.
Also, their Discord chats where they said, oh, yeah, let's attack.
It's,
Turns out those are recorded. We'll cover that more in another section, though.
And the big chip controversy, the U.S. is now trying to gather allies against China. And it's a tough place to be in if you're a smaller country, because you really can't stay on the sidelines. It's like modern politics. Neither side will tolerate anyone in the middle. They will attack you just unrelentingly. And that seems to be working for the U.S.
The U.S. and Europe need a grand bargain, quote unquote, on chips and EVs to counter China. This is the Bangkok Post. It's an interesting perspective. We actually
That's a
have
Wall Street Journal paywall.
yeah, we have companies that are getting involved in this as well, as we'll see more in the business section. But things are kind of heating up in this sort of trade. I don't know. It's Cold War economic.
It's just Cold War 2.0. Seems like to me.
Trade war.
Yeah.
And if you've been following the the US EU relations, one thing that we just could not agree on was the whole like cloud storage tech company thing, because the EU has all these nice laws about not doing that, but they're on Facebook, which is stored in the US in some cases, who do not have those laws. So what do? Well, you basically give in.
EU confirms its draft decision on replacement US data transfer pact. So this is going to let US companies transfer some data, but they still have to follow EU rules. But there's no way for the EU to really verify that's happening.
I think they're going to give them like some maybe small steps in that
Paper
direction.
thin concessions.
Just to make it seem like it's not completely one-sided. And Microsoft Teams. Oh, do you love it?
No.
Well, it's in everything now because they've begun to integrate it into the entire Office line of products. But wait, that might not be allowed.
Microsoft seeks to settle an EU antitrust concern over Teams, the Teams integration. And there's an angle with Slack here because Slack plays a role. Yeah.
This is a good image because they put the euro right
subtle.
next. Yeah.
Also ED for erectile dysfunction.
Well, now we're demonetized.
Which is, of course, closely related to
The European Union. I thought so.
And Teams.
You know what? If I was in the middle and I heard the Teams notification,
Yeah.
it might have an effect. Yeah.
Sometimes one of my friends, like when we're playing games in Discord, like sometimes his email sound will go off and it's like, oh, turn that off.
We do that on the live streams, and I have to do it on purpose just because half the chat is like,
Turn it off. Yeah.
In the UK, they are not wasting any time, just like our leaders did not waste any time to capitalize on this tragedy.
blah, blah, blah. The UK to consult on central bank digital currency in the coming weeks. Oh man, the UK is moving really rapidly toward a digital currency that's not this Wild West cryptocurrency. Woo.
I love how the thought process is like digital currency has really turned bad. This did not work out like we thought it would. The government should start doing it,
Well, let's double down.
The government needs to step in and protect people from themselves.
but not by stopping them from doing this dangerous thing, from doing their own version of it, because they're so good at that kind of thing. I mean, think about all the great track record they have of keeping things secure and running well.
I thought this was in the business section. This is what I was alluding to earlier with the whole China thing.
Well,
yeah.
I think there might be two versions of this because there's a Japan
Yes.
perspective one, and then there's a Netherlands perspective one, but it's the same thing.
Reuters reports Dutch chip equipment maker ASML's CEO questions U.S. export rules on China, according to this newspaper. So the guy from ASML, he has a good point here, which is, why do we want to not sell our products to China? We're sure that they're not going to be able to quickly replicate what we've done, and they need our products for their own manufacturing, and they're not looking to, like, his point seems to be that this is not a Chinese company undercutting us or a Chinese company entering a limited market or a global market. This is just China buying advanced products. What's the argument?
But they're doing the lithography gear.
Right.
So they've already actually been banned from selling a lot of that to China. And they pointed out some numbers there. It's like 30% of their business. They're like, now you want to do this much more of our business. And that's kind of crippling, bro, because China's a good customer. But I think what they're saying, what they're trying not to say maybe, is that we understand that what you're trying to do is cripple China. But what you say you're trying to do is to keep Chinese chips from causing problems everywhere else.
Yes.
But it doesn't really play out if you won't let us sell, because if we could sell them lithography equipment, they could just make their own thing and be over there in their own world. What's the problem with that?
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is no, we actually want to destroy China.
And China actually gave do we have no, we don't have the salt. China actually is giving a little bit of a concession in that they've agreed not to sell chips to Russia, but we'll cover more of that later. At least on paper they say that.
They say, yeah, I
That may
don't
not
know if
really
I
be
trust that, but
They may be still selling to Iran. We don't know.
Now, here is a great piece of news out of Switzerland. And we've talked about this a lot. And this has been a big thing in the EU lately, because it turns out in the EU, they didn't limit their spyware sales to the usual despots. It got into the mainline EU countries. And they're like, oh no, we better look into this. So Switzerland passed this law, and oh boy, is there a lot of interesting things that are going to come out of this.
Swiss Data Protection Commissioner orders government to publicly release surveillance tech export licenses, meaning that when somebody buys one of these pieces of software, it should go on a list somewhere that everybody can go look at.
And they mentioned a couple of countries that's already been uncovered. And, you know, they always make the excuse. It's like, no, we don't sell these to anybody who might use it for bad things. But these countries are well documented for having used it for bad things.
What if Microsoft shows up in that list and it's like, what's Microsoft doing buying this spying tool? That doesn't make sense.
Oh, here we go. Ethiopia, Kuwait, Qatar, Lebanon, Indonesia, Lithuania, and Thailand. Hong Kong, we know what they're using it for.
We need to hunt down those pesky protesters.
And this one, here's the thing, like, I can't help but think about this, because you're creating an arbiter, and that's always a bad thing. Do you think anything right now, as a world or even a country, that we can agree on whether it's fake or not?
all I could think about was like how terrible YouTube is to get hold of when you have to dispute something with them. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, this is going to take forever.
But even then, how do you ever prove that something is or is not fake? Because there will always be one side that won't accept it.
Google must delete search results about you if they're fake in EU court rules.
Manifestly inaccurate. I guess that's a legal term. Seems like the burden of proof is going to be crazy there.
Yeah.
And again, who knows how long it'll take to get hold of Google to actually, you know, work your case or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe if it'd be like YouTube too. It's like if you can get on Twitter.
Yeah, if you
And-
know a famous person, if you're famous, you can get crap removed, but no one else.
Yeah, it's like the algorithm has detected that you sang the happy birthday song. It's like, that's out of copyright. It's like, oh, a manual reviewer disagrees with you. And it's like,
Now, if you're thinking, wow, they're really stripping away all of our rights when it comes to digital stuff and cryptocurrency, I wonder if we'll ever get any of those rights back. Well, think about how long it's been since there was an airplane related terror attack, and how long this has taken now to cycle back into, well, I guess you can have those freedoms back.
rules on liquids and laptops to be eased at UK airports from June 2024.
But
So you can carry on a 2-liter at this point.
But the thing that's funny about this is like, as you read it, they're like, we just got new, better scanning
Right.
technology. That's the reason they're allowing that now.
The reason is because like those liquid containers, they now can probably just tell what's in it.
Yeah.
So that was 2006 when that started. So just shy of 20 years.
Fabulous.
And China they're getting really thrashed by this chip stuff. Like they try to pretend that it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. And they need to try to do something about it. So hilariously, they're going to an organization that has not been friendly to them in the past.
China hits back at U.S. chip sanctions with a World Trade Organization dispute. But the people of the WTO said, oh, there's nothing we can do about this. Why are you complaining here? You should know better. It's like, we have no other venue in which to complain. Okay.
And I think they see the writing on the wall. I don't think they expect that to work because it's going to be a long process. But now they've sort of resigned themselves. We're going to have to pull up our bootstraps here, do it ourselves.
China is readying $143 billion, which is an aid package for its chip firms in the face of U.S. curbs, meaning that the Chinese government is going to try to fund these companies to continue the advances.
Someone's car alarm's going off.
It's weirdly, oh, there it is. So they were talking about you could get up to 20% subsidy if you are working in this sector to buy new equipment and get started and all that stuff. It's quite a discount.
It's like, what can't you get? Okay, let's see if we can make it locally. It's probably, I mean, ultimately, this will probably benefit China in the long run. In the short run, probably not. In the short run, it'll be a little disruptive.
And China also recognizing the AI apocalypse that's coming and the inability to trust everything. But their rules about it, as usual, are obscure and ultimately just arbitrary on them deciding whatever. If they decide it's bad, it's bad. And you better hope you didn't create any of it.
China bans deepfakes created without permission or for evil. They also require watermarking on deepfakes now. All deepfakes, even the ones created with permission.
Must be in line with socialist values. Which means no Xi Jinping. You better not deepfake Xi Jinping's face onto Winnie the Pooh. Oh, God help you. And this is the other version of this is the Japan-centric version of the same story.
Japan and the Netherlands just picked sides in the U.S.-China Cold War over chips. Here's what they chose.
Vote now with your phones.
As
USA,
if you didn't know.
It was USA number 1. Japan is probably a little more pressed by that than Netherlands, right?
Yeah. They're not exactly on great terms.
And over in India, of course, we've talked a lot about how India is probably going to become the new China in terms of like
Labor,
manufacturing, economic powerhouse, going from their current economic status and pushing into the middle class, which China is kind of like wrapping up now. And they seem to be trying to get out ahead of some of the same oppressive things that China is doing.
India doesn't plan to limit playtime for games, for online game usage and that sort of thing.
Good news if you're a Indian PUBG mobile player.
they mentioned they had to make a different version in this article of PUBG for India because of like some sort of regulation they have there.
What went afoul of the regulation?
I don't
I
know.
don't remember that part.
I think they were afraid that something about the developer maybe is Chinese based and they were afraid it was like a security concern. That's what the article kind of implied.
Oh, right, because the different company does PUBG Mobile, right?
Yeah.
Is that Tencent?
Maybe.
Well, Indonesia has an interesting new criminal code, and this one is just like right out of your face. They're not trying to couch this.
Yeah, it's not subtle.
It's just like, hey, we're in charge, and don't say bad things about us.
Indonesia's new criminal code bans online insults of the president. Aww.
Or any kind of criticism or humiliation of the government.
Did Elon Musk buy Indonesia?
He could.
What if the leader tweets out something so stupid that it humiliates them? Will they then be violating this law?
Stop violating yourself.
Now, we've talked in the past about these little known programs where a lot of people are getting their blood taken as babies. And that blood is not thrown away. It is housed somewhere, and they are always going to have your blood and your DNA. This, to me, feels like another way of doing that.
Genome sequencing trial to test benefits of identifying genetic diseases at birth. Okay.
They point out in here that's going to follow you for the rest of your life. There is no getting rid of that. So as we get further and further into DNA evidence and DNA policing, you are always going to be on the list to be checked against. And all your family members.
Yeah, if one person does that like 23andMe, you're already in it.
And Microsoft, it seems like we've been getting a lot of these lately.
Yeah.
This is embarrassing. Come on, guys.
Microsoft digital certificates have once again been abused to sign malware. Code signing certificate is supposed to make people safer. It's not.
Don't trust anybody on those app stores. My God. And we got some 0-day bugs. Of course, networking gear, one of the hot targets.
NSA says Chinese hackers are exploiting 0-day bug in popular networking gear. Have you got a Citrix bridge for remote desktops? Citrix, I forgot the name of it. Their remote client thing. You need to patch it.
ADC.
Oh, yeah.
And Apple got another one, although they got on this one real fast.
Apple fixes actively exploited 0-day security vulnerability affecting most iPhones. Another one. I hope they pay out the security researcher this time. They always find a way to screw the security researchers.
And, you can feel good about when you find out that they're sequencing your DNA and keeping it, or, tracking all of your purchases and all this stuff. You can feel good because the government and the FBI have an amazing ability to retain that data and protect it. So their collection methods aren't the same risk as like Facebook collection methods. Just get that out of your head.
The FBI's vetted info sharing network, InfraGard, has been hacked. It's probably because they made it too hard to install patches and update it.
Hacked and for sale on the hacking forums. Yikes.
Womp, womp, womp.
So this will give you a list of everybody who is involved in the InfraGard program, which is like big tech people, security professionals in high ranking positions and stuff like that. If you want to get all of their contact info, just go pick that up.
Ooh.
They haven't priced it yet. And this is another case similar to the one where it's like, well, you could use this for bad things, but that's definitely not what we're selling it for. DDoS? No. This is a testing tool. And this one is not about spying. This is a security app.
Xnspy stalkerware spied on thousands of iPhones and Android devices.
It's got spy in the name.
And once again, it's the advertising that burns them.
Ooh.
Yeah. You probably shouldn't put that page on your website.
How to catch a cheating spouse or partner with Xnspy.
Don't do that.
That's reserved only for the government.
And also, Apple would prefer that you stop using their technology, their stalking technology, for stalking. That's not what they made it for.
Apple sued by stalking victims over the alleged AirTag tracking. So I think Apple is probably going to come out ahead here. Not because they did a good job with AirTags, just because, one, they're Apple, and two, they did reasonably build in some plausible deniability for the way that AirTags work.
That is, in the case, they're saying what you did is not enough. All these little changes you made. One woman had one in the tire well from an abuser. He found her. I think he abused her a little bit. The other one put it in the child's backpack for tracking. Smart. Horrible, but smart. Also involving the child should be like an extra charge, right?
Yeah.
And this is interesting because even when you have a company that is just beloved, have we ever done a bad story about them? Like they can't sell enough. Everybody is all excited about them, but then they did something kind of dumb and people immediately, the backlash was huge, and it should be.
Why the computer company Raspberry Pi's new hire caused a social media firestorm. You should read this article. The short version is former policemen use Raspberry Pis to build police equipment to spy on people and catch criminals, or to catch alleged criminals.
So now they've hired him to help fabricate housing and stuff like that to use the Raspberry Pi in weird, difficult situations, because his whole career was using Raspberry Pis in weird and difficult situations where they're not going to be seen.
Not great.
And over in Russia, this headline might make you think that this is a cyber attack, but no, this is on purpose, because it turns out when you have a really healthy GPS signal in a given place, drones can use that.
GPS signals are being disrupted in Russian cities. Is it a defense system or?
I would assume so.
Yeah, it seems to be that
Because they're afraid now, oh, Ukraine can hit us back.
Yeah, Ukraine has been sending some drones in there, which Russia calls terrorism, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you think? What do you call what you're doing right now?
Is the difference the missile versus the drone? Although, isn't Russia using the Iranian drones
Yes.
now? So, yeah, that's interesting. But it seems that they're turning that off so you can't be specific with your drones.
In other news, my mom's cat is going to live for a little bit longer.
Oh, did you just get a text?
Yeah,
Exciting.
What's the diagnosis?
it's very old.
Oh, is that all they said?
Yeah.
Just it's a really old
Is
cat.
there? Is you going to have to give it a treatment or?
Yeah, I have to continue the thyroid treatment. It's not hurting, but it's like 20 years old. It's not got long left, but it's got a little while longer.
Here's our engagement challenge, chat. What would you do for a geriatric cat to make its last years pleasant? What would be the best thing to do for a
This
cat?
cat's also very skittish.
Yeah, scared of everything because it lived a life outside with possums until
Yeah,
about
mountain
3 years ago, and it already doesn't know what world it's in because it's got a warm place to sleep and all the food that it can eat. I mean, at this point, I basically just feed it as many greenies as it'll eat because the thyroid makes it lose weight, the thyroid problem,
Yeah.
so it can't gain weight.
Greenies not high calorie though. You should probably switch to like a more high calorie treat.
I don't know what the raw chicken or not raw chicken, but like cooked chicken, but for people. That was like that's one of the most calorie dense things you could give a cat. It's just it won't eat a lot of that kind of stuff, but I don't know.
Well, maybe get some suggestions in the comments.
Yeah. What do you feed a cat to help it get swole? It's 20 years old
It needs to make some gains.
and losing some weight as a result of a thyroid
Should
problem.
give it some raw liver.
All right, chat. We will see you guys tomorrow. Get all your Christmas shopping done. Bye.